With a bow, you feel like you're controlling every single tiny detail about it because it's all coming from your body and you're directly connected to it.
Horizon Zero Dawn's bow makes me feel powerful. I always described it as having a meaty thunk. But no one liked hearing me say that. So I reached out to Guerilla Games to find out how exactly they made Aloy's bow feel so good. This is principal sound designer Anton Woltek. We asked him about the philosophy behind that bow's sound.
How can I translate the experience of firing a bow into something in the game, which might not sound really like how a bow sounds, but more gives the emotional response that you would have firing a real bow.
They made it so that if you quickly fire one arrow after another, red lightning's trouble, it just doesn't sound as powerful. But if you really stretch that string,
there's obviously no real energy taken for the player to draw an arrow. You can do it endlessly and you can hold it for however long. But we wanted to give a sense of that there's really an effort needed to do that, because that is the actual power of the weapon.
There's actually a sweet spot.
The whole bow starts to rattle and you feel a big thump from the subwoofer if you have that. And you want it to feel good when you fire the bow. And so you can also push the player into the right direction by giving the right feel at the right time. You will naturally already draw it until the sound is good.
And of course, when you actually hit something with an arrow, it also needs to be satisfying.
If you are hitting parts of a machine where the arrow gets deflected, then you won't get that sound. And if you're hitting a part where you're doing more damage, then you'll hear a longer story of the sound. Because the sound will then be longer, there's more time to hear that story and to know, okay, I'm actually doing something here.
Of course, it's also important what you see. Guerilla Games emphasize the trail left in the air by each arrow so that you can easily track your shot. Game designers have a whole bag of tricks to make sure that impacts leave an impression, from hit pauses to animations. In Horizon Zero Dawn, the machines were given detachable plates.
Ripping a plate off just feels really satisfying, I think. And it gives good feedback to the player as well, because you're shooting a relatively small arrow onto a big surface. How are you going to see that the arrow actually lands there? Well, if the plate flies off and there's also sparks and other effects that are triggered and sounds, then you kind of emphasize and magnify it, and then it becomes very clear to the player what's happening.
Game director Matthias de Jong told us that the guiding principle behind Horizon is that the player should always feel like they're in control. Part of that was minimizing the time that the player spends stuck in animations.
In the Killzone games, back then animation was always kind of leading over the gameplay in a way, and that's a system we changed for Horizon. For example, you can shoot faster than what the animation actually displayed when you fire a bow.
Hang on, can we look at that? So compare these fast shots to a more measured draw of the bow. You can actually see the parts of the animation that are skipped so that the players can fire as fast as they want.
So this is where gameplay is now leading. The button press is actually faster than animation.
To make sure that the gameplay was prioritized, the animators put tags in Aloy's movement animations, which basically means that almost every action can be interrupted within a certain window of time. For example, here's Aloy starting a light weapon attack and moving directly into a dodge roll.
Without that capability, you felt a lot more kind of almost like locked in with the bow. So that sense of freedom you have when you hold it, and you can move in any direction, you can switch to other actions, and that greatly helps as well with the responsiveness.
So the bow doesn't just feel good because it makes pretty explosions and it sounds nice. It feels good because you can whip it out at any time and pull a total boss move. Like this.
Good hit.
If you like this video and want to know more about the tricks that game developers pull to make things feel good, you should watch our video about the hit pause in God of War, which totally works, but maybe not the way that you're expecting it to.